Welcome back to another video. It's Max. In this one, we're gonna talk about whether you should contact your ex, reach out to them when you've been dumped or not. Now, first of all, to just point out the elephant in the room, I know it's tough to resist the temptation to reach out to your ex, especially when you want them back. And most of you watching this video, that's why you clicked on it. You do want your ex back, right? Now, you may think that reaching out will somehow change their mind about returning, or at least get them to, miss you a little bit. But, hate to burst your bubble, hate to, take a dump in your stew, this is rarely the case. This rarely works like this. Contacting an ex will probably, not always the case, but probably push your ex just further away, especially when they actually dumped you, when they indicated that they don't want to be in contact with you. Now, if you're unconvinced by this, I totally get it. I know it's not what you want to hear. I know you want to believe that somehow reaching out to your ex is going to change everything. And I mean, I really get it. I was in your shoes once as well. But let me at least present my case here, right? In this video, I'll go over 8 reasons why reaching out to your ex is just a really shitty idea. I will explain as well why experts advise you to do it anyway, and I will reveal what I would personally do instead. Now, just 2 side notes, okay? A couple of very simple side notes. Side note number 1, this video presupposes you have already expressed your feelings to your ex, so you've basically told them, hey, I want you back, I still love you, I miss you, blah, blah, blah. Something like that. And you were, in response, met with a rejection, with silence, or some sort of an unreciprocated response. Now, if you haven't done so yet, sure, express your feelings first and then proceed with holding contact and while watching this video. I mean, or you can watch it now, but you get the point. And side note number 2, this video also presupposes that the contact you are attempting to make isn't tied to logistics or like shared responsibilities like kids, pets, mutual friends, living arrangements or something like that. The type of contact discussed in this video is strictly tied to convincing, cajoling, or simply getting your ex in any sort of way, whether aggressive or not, to just give you another shot, right? That's the kind of contact we're talking about. So let's get into the reasons, like why the fuck shouldn't you contact an ex who dumped you, in my opinion. First of all, just to clarify this, the reasons that I'm gonna go over here in this video, they're listed in no specific order. Okay, so let's get right into it. Starting with number 1, contacting an ex diverts your focus for the worse. Now look, I don't care how much you love your ex, I get it. Just contacting them to get them back, it should be kind of like the last thing on your mind after getting dumped. Instead, you should focus on distancing yourself from them, reflecting on what the hell went wrong in your relationship and what you can do better next time. And therefore, you should also focus, of course, on self-improvement. And this way, if you do get your ex back, by some miracle, by the way, because the chances aren't that great if you are familiar with my work, you will not suddenly start repeating the same mistakes that initially led to the breakup, that initially led you to part ways. So generally speaking, the more you hone in on whether or not to contact them, the more panicky and needy you'll feel. And the more panicky and needy you feel, the less you will focus on personal growth, which is kind of the whole point of cutting contact with an ex after you've been dumped in the first place. And so you'll be way more likely to reach out to your ex before they're ready to really receive any contact, to resume contact, and you will, like I said in the beginning, push them further away. Also, another reason to not contact an ex, it might interfere with your healing process, right? So the idea here is that after a breakup, the most crucial step is to focus on healing and moving forward, be that with your ex or without them. Otherwise, you're just gonna go and make yourself crazy, right? You're gonna be very desperate and you might end up miserable. You wanna focus on yourself, not them, after you've been dumped or after you've just broken up in general. Now, when you contact your ex, you kind of disrupt this natural process by potentially opening some of your emotional wounds that you're essentially trying to heal. Now, each message or call you make can easily pull you back into the emotional turmoil from a breakup, preventing you from finding closure and peace and all the other good stuff you're looking for. So instead of progressing, you remain stuck in the past, stagnating. Now, another reason you shouldn't reach out to your ex is because it can actually lead to emotional dependency. So when you keep, for example, reaching out to them, there is a chance you develop this emotional dependency on them, on specifically their need for validation and comfort. And this dependency, well, it can prevent you from developing healthy coping mechanisms and achieving emotional independence. Put another way, it lowers your self-reliance, which is arguably the most important trait for breakup recovery. In contrast, avoiding contact gives you the chance to grow emotionally and learn to rely on yourself for support and validation. So put differently, it enhances your self-reliance, like I said, one of the more important elements for breakup recovery. Now, contacting an ex also comes across very pathetic, at least usually. And that's another reason you shouldn't reach out to your ex, especially after being dumped. So for starters, it's just annoying and predictable, especially when you do it more than once in a row, maybe like every 30 days, every 60 days or something like that, because I know that's what some certain experts and gurus recommend, which I think is just fucking dumb, but we will get into that later. But the point I'm trying to make here is that when you reach out, that reach out often generates no curiosity, no separation anxiety. It doesn't even allow your ex to feel the separation anxiety because you just aren't separating yourself emotionally and physically from them enough. And if your ex can feel those feelings, they won't ever be interested in rekindling things. At least that's what's happening in theory. Now, reaching out also implies you see them, or can imply, depending on the reach out, but most of the time from what I've seen, it implies you see your ex on a pedestal. And it also implies you have low self-esteem, self-respect even. Otherwise, why would you reach out to someone who did you dirty and pushed you away in the first place, right? That's how you want to think about it. And to add insult to injury, reaching out to an ex usually just makes them think of you in a way where he or she probably has nothing better going on in their life right now. And that's just sad. Like, no one wants to date someone like that, right? Someone with nothing other than trying to get an ex back going on in their life. Now, another reason you shouldn't contact an ex is because it's very selfish and disrespectful. Because look, when an ex dumps you, they are essentially implying your relationship wasn't working and that they want space away from you. Okay, and when you reach out and try to get them back, despite the fact that they want space, well, you're not only disrespecting their decision to leave, you're also sub-communicating. Fuck you, fuck what you want. It's about what I want. It's about me. I want you back at my pace. And look, it's really hard to notice this stuff going on, but by reaching out prematurely, you are making, in a way, everything about yourself and are entirely invalidating your ex's internal world. And that's why I say that it's very selfish of you to try and reach out to someone who clearly communicated by dumping you that they don't want to stay in touch. Anyhow, to move forward, another reason reaching out sucks is because it can often lead to miscommunications. Because when emotions run high and communication channels are kind of strained, the likelihood of miscommunication, well, it just increases in general. It increases significantly. Especially through text, for example, where jokes and wit and sarcasm, it just doesn't land well. It just doesn't translate well on those mediums. And when miscommunication hits, unnecessary conflicts likely ensue, which further complicates an already delicate situation. And obviously you don't want this Believe me. So don't reach out to your ex. Just avoid that risk of miscommunication by maintaining a respectful distance. Anyhow, moving forward, well, here's another harsh reason you shouldn't reach out to your ex, because the reach outs, right? The constant reach outs were likely the problem all along. Now, I'm not saying this for everyone, but about 80% of the people who read my blog, who watch my videos, who just follow my content in general, they broke up with their ex because they excessively chased after them. They kept messaging them, they kept calling them, usually for really dumb, needy reasons, like trying to get validation. But the point is, they were constantly reaching out, constantly contacting an ex. So that's essentially, in my book, chasing, right? So here's some food for thought. Why would your ex want to return if you keep displaying the same kind of annoying behaviors that pushed them away in the first place, that pushed them away initially? They want less of you, so they try to keep you away. You want more of them, so you try to get closer. Like, do you see the problem here? You are on the opposite ends of the spectrum. And it's until you give your ex the sufficient space where they can actually start to want to have you back as well, you're not going to be mending any relationship. You're only going to be making a fool out of yourself and setting yourself up for rejection. So that's just some food for thought for you. Again, it doesn't apply to everyone, but for most people that follow my work, usually chasing is kind of their biggest problem. So once they stop doing that, a lot of things can change. Also, another reason, contacting an ex usually just upsets them. I mean, let's do a little experiment, right? I right now don't want you to think of a pink elephant wearing this funny sombrero riding a unicycle. Now, if you're like most people, you've probably thought about this elephant, right? I mean, of course you did. Like, it's a human tendency, natural human tendency to visualize whatever we are thinking about, whatever we are directed to think about. And, well, what about the emotions tied to this fictional elephant? They were probably positive, probably at least neutral, right? It's kind of funny. I hope I'm funny. But here's the kicker. Your ex goes through this exact process when you contact them. They visualize you, and then they form a response based on that mental image of you. But since your breakup brought about plenty of hurt, even if they dumped you, yes, they're still hurting, they're probably still hurting as well. Instead of eliciting a positive response, as with our fictional elephant, your reach out is typically going to cause a negative response in your ex. It's going to cause them to feel negative emotions. And as you'd expect, this only makes your ex put up their barriers, protecting them from getting close to you emotionally, aka it usually just upsets them. Now let's talk about for a sec why experts on YouTube, on blogs, whatever, why they tell you to contact an ex who dumped you. And this, by the way, goes after you've already made your interest known, after you've already told them, hey, I want you back, I still love you, and all that good stuff, right? So just to be very clear about that. Well, in short, it's because it's what people want to hear, and it's what sells way more ex-back products. I mean, let me unpack this for you. Let me unpack this little idea, okay? Just my pet theory. So don't take it too hard too much, okay? This is just what I believe. I think I'm pretty much rock solid right on this, but you be the judge. Ex-back advice is dealing with people whose unbridled emotions run the show. And these people, I think, they just don't want to hear what they need to hear. You, for example, you, the viewer, you probably don't want to get back. You probably don't want to hear how you shouldn't get back with your ex. You probably don't want to hear how reheating leftovers usually doesn't work out in the long term, and how you don't have actually ex-back problems to resolve. You probably have emotional and self-esteem problems to resolve. So it's not about tactics to get an ex back. It's about actually doing some self-improvement work on yourself and becoming more attractive internally and then externally, so like from the inside out. Now, these things, although valid, are really uncomfortable to hear, obviously, and so they don't sell. So experts, because they're just really savvy businessmen and businesswomen, they tell you the opposite. So they tell you what feels good and what sells better. So, for example, things like reach out to your ex in 30 days, maybe with some dumb happy reminder text, right? Canned texting template response or whatever. You want to probably hear like how you should fight for your relationship, how you should strike while the iron is hot and bullshit like that. Still, recognize that not all expert advice is purely cash money motivated, right? Different experts may give varying perspectives based on their experiences and research. So please take note of that. It's not like such a black and white thing. Some experts, for example, believe that in certain situations reaching out can be beneficial, like if there has been some significant time for both parties to reflect and grow. Like, I don't believe that, but some experts do, and I think it's actually fine. I don't think that's a unhealthy approach, even though it might, in my opinion, not be the most effective one. So, with all that said, approach such advice as to, like, reach out to your ex in X amount of days with a critical mind. Consider if it truly applies to your situation and why a certain expert would give such advice in the first place. I mean, think about their intentions. Is it really because they understand your situation, or do they just see, dollar signs and they try to pander to the lowest common denominator through their message and advice? Just something to think about. Now, what the hell would I do instead of reaching out to your ex, right? Instead of contacting them after they dumped you? So here's my take on this, and I have more videos on that go more in depth into it, but just so we're on the same page and so this video feels kind of like a complete guide on this topic, here's what I would do, I guess in summary, in brief. In my humble opinion, you should, after you get dumped and after you already told your ex, hey, I want you back and I love you, whatever, and you were met with like a rejection, like I said in the beginning, unreciprocated response or something along those lines, you should, after that, walk away and you should never look back. You should work on yourself, you should live your life as though your ex will never re-enter it. And the only time you should give them another chance is when your paths cross organically. For instance, when your ex reaches out first, when you're already in regular contact, or when you randomly bump into each other, spark a conversation maybe, and can sense interest on their end, right? In each of these cases, the main thing on your mind should be to set up a date as early on in your interactions as possible. And then you can escalate, you can escalate from there sexually, physically. And if you're one of the lucky few people who came to this point, you should, if you want to learn how to escalate more and how to get in the best position to get your ex to contact you, to reach out, you should download my reattraction cheat sheet, available, for download below this video. There's a link to it below this video. It's basically a PDF, a one-page sexy PDF that walks you through my entire ex-back process and philosophy. If you kind of already resonate with it, I think this is going to be a pretty valuable resource. So yeah, download it below this video. And that's pretty much it from my side. It was nice talking to you, and take care.